I saw my mother-in-law throw a canvas backpack into the river and speed off in her truck. I ran over to the water's edge and heard a muffled sound coming from inside. "Please, please don't let it be what I'm thinking," I whispered, my hands shaking over the wet zipper. I dragged the backpack out, yanked the clasp open, and my heart stopped. What I saw inside made me tremble in a way I had never felt before in my 62 years of life. But let me explain how I got to that moment. How a quiet October afternoon turned into the most terrifying scene I have ever witnessed. It was exactly 5:15 inches the afternoon. I know because I had just poured my coffee and glanced at the kitchen clock, that old clock that belonged to my father. I was standing on the porch of my home, the house where I raised Benjamin, my only son, the house that now felt too big, too silent, too full of ghosts since I buried him 6 months ago. River Willowbrook shimmered in front of me, still as a mirror. It was hot, the sticky, humid kind of heat that makes you sweat beneath your shirt, even when you are standing still. Then I saw her. Laura's black SUV appeared on the gravel road, kicking up a cloud of dust. My daughter-in-law, my son's widow, was driving like a mad woman. The engine roared unnaturally. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. I knew that road. Benjamin and I used to walk it when he was a boy. Nobody drove like that unless they were running from something. She slammed on the brakes right by the river shore. The tires screeched and slid. The dust made me cough. I dropped my coffee mug. It shattered against the porch floor. But I didn't care. My eyes were fixed on her. Laura sprang out of the truck like she'd been launched by a spring. She was wearing a blue blouse, the one Benjamin gave her for their anniversary. Her hair was messy, her face red. She looked like she'd been crying or screaming or both. She opened the trunk so violently, I thought she'd rip the door off. And then I saw it. The green canvas backpack I had given her myself when she married my son. "So you can carry your dreams everywhere," I told her that day. How foolish I was, how naive. Laura pulled it from the trunk. It was heavy. I knew from the way her body strained, from the way her arms trembled. She looked around, nervous, scared, guilty. I will never forget that look. Then she walked toward the water's edge. Every step seemed to cost her, as if she were carrying the weight of the world or something worse. "Laura!" I yelled from the porch. But she was too far away, or perhaps she didn't want to hear me. She swung the backpack once, twice, and on the third movement, she hurled it into the river. The sound of the impact sliced the air. Birds scattered and flew up, water splashed, and she just stood there, watching the backpack float for a moment before it slowly began to sink. Then she ran. She scrambled back to the truck as if the devil himself were chasing her. The engine revved, the tires squealed. She was gone. She vanished down the same road, leaving behind only dust and silence. I stood paralyzed. 10 seconds, 20, 30. My brain tried to process what I had just seen. Laura, the backpack, the river, the desperation in her movements. Something was terribly wrong. A chill shot down my back despite the heat. My legs began to move before my mind could stop them. I ran like I hadn't run in years. My knees protested, my chest burned, but I didn't stop. I ran down the porch steps, across the lawn, and onto the gravel road. My boots kicked up dust. The river was about 100 yards away, maybe less, maybe more. I don't know. I only know that every second felt like an eternity. When I reached the shore, I was breathless. My heart hammered against my ribs. The backpack was still there, floating, sinking slowly. The canvas was soaked, dark, and heavy. I waded into the water without thinking. The river was cold, much colder than I expected. It reached my knees, then my waist. The mud on the bottom sucked at my feet. I almost lost a boot. I stretched out my arms, grabbed one of the straps of the backpack, and pulled. It was unbelievably heavy, as if it carried rocks inside, or something worse. I didn't want to think about what worse could be. I pulled harder. My arm shook, and water splashed onto my face. Finally, the backpack budged. I started dragging it toward the shore, and then I heard it. A faint, muffled sound coming from inside the case. My blood froze. No, it couldn't be. "Please, God, don't let it be what I'm thinking," I whispered. I pulled faster, more desperately. I dragged the backpack onto the wet sand of the shore and fell to my knees beside it. My hands searched for the zipper. It was stuck, wet, perhaps rusted. My fingers slipped. "Come on, come on, come on," I repeated through gritted teeth. Tears began to blur my vision. I forced the zipper once, twice. It burst open. I lifted the lid, and what I saw inside made the entire world stop. My heart completely stopped beating. Air clogged in my throat. My hands flew to my mouth to stifle a scream. There, wrapped in a soaked green blanket, was a baby, a newborn, so tiny, so fragile, so still. His lips were purple, his skin pale as wax, his eyes closed. He wasn't moving. Oh my God, no. My hands trembled so violently I could barely hold him. I lifted him from the backpack with a delicacy I didn't know I still possessed. He was cold, so cold. He weighed less than a bag of flour. His little head fit in the palm of my hand. The umbilical cord was still attached, tied with a piece of string. String? Not a medical clamp? Common string. As if someone had done this at home, in secret, without any help. "No, no, no," I whispered over and over. I put my ear to his chest. Silence. Nothing. I pressed my cheek against his nose, and then I felt it. A sigh so weak I thought I had imagined it. But it was there. He was barely breathing, but he was breathing. I stood up, holding the baby against my chest. My legs nearly buckled. I ran toward the house faster than I had ever run in my life. Water streamed from my clothes. My bare feet bled from the sharp stones on the path, but I felt no pain, only terror, only urgency, only the desperate need to save this tiny life shivering against me. I burst into the house screaming. I don't know what I was yelling, maybe help, maybe God, maybe nothing coherent. I grabbed the kitchen phone with one hand while holding the baby with the other. I dialed 911. My fingers slipped on the buttons. The phone almost fell twice. 911. "What is your emergency?" said a woman's voice on the other end. "A baby," I cried out between sobs. "I found a baby in the river. He's not responding. He's cold. He's blue. Please, please send help." "Ma'am, I need you to calm down. Tell me your address." I gave her my address, the words tumbling out. The operator asked me to place the baby on a flat surface. I swept the kitchen table clear with one frantic motion. Dishes, papers, everything fell to the floor. Nothing mattered. I placed the baby on the table, so small, so fragile, so still. "Is he breathing?" I asked the operator, my voice a sharp, high shriek I didn't recognize. "You tell me. Look at his chest. Is it moving?" I leaned down. Barely, so barely, a movement so subtle I had to strain to see it. "Yes, I think so. Very little." "Good. Listen to me carefully. I'm going to guide you. I need you to get a clean towel and dry the baby very gently, then wrap him up to warm him. The ambulance is on its way." I did as she said. I grabbed towels from the bathroom. I dried his little body with clumsy, desperate movements. Every second felt eternal. I wrapped the baby in clean towels. I picked him up again, cradled him against my chest. I started rocking him without realizing it, an ancient instinct I thought I'd forgotten. "Hold on," I whispered to him. "Hold on, please. They're coming. They're coming to help you." The minutes the ambulance took were the longest of my life. I sat on the kitchen floor with the baby against my chest. I sang. I don't know what I was singing. Maybe the same song I used to sing to Benjamin when he was small. Maybe just nonsense sounds. I just needed him to know he wasn't alone, that someone was holding him, that someone wanted him alive. The sirens broke the silence. Red and white lights flashed through the windows. I ran to the door. 2 paramedics jumped out of the ambulance. An older man with a gray beard and a younger woman with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She took the baby from my arms with an efficiency that broke my heart. She checked him quickly, pulled out a stethoscope, and listened. Her face showed no emotion, but I saw her shoulders tense. "Severe hypothermia, possible water aspiration. We need to move him now," she said to her partner. They placed him on a tiny stretcher, fitted him with an oxygen mask. Their hands worked fast, connecting wires, monitors, things I didn't understand. The man looked at me. "Are you coming with us?" It wasn't a question. I climbed into the ambulance. I sat on the small side seat, unable to stop looking at the baby, so tiny among all those machines. The ambulance started up, sirens wailing. The world blurred past the windows. "How did you find him?" the paramedic asked while still working. "In a backpack in the river. I saw someone throw it in." She looked up, stared at me, then looked at her partner. I saw something in her eyes. Concern, perhaps suspicion, maybe pity. "Did you see who it was?" I opened my mouth, then closed it. Laura, my daughter-in-law, my son's widow, the woman who had cried at Benjamin's funeral as if the world had ended, the same woman who had just tried to drown a baby. How could I say that? How could I believe it myself? "Yes," I finally said. "I saw who it was." We reached City General Hospital in less than 15 minutes. The emergency doors burst open. A dozen people dressed in white and green surrounded the stretcher. They yelled numbers, medical terms, orders. They rushed the baby through a set of double doors. I tried to follow them, but a nurse stopped me. "Ma'am, you need to stay here. The doctors are working. We need information." She led me to a waiting room, cream walls, plastic chairs, the smell of disinfectant. I sat down, trembling from head to toe. I didn't know if it was from the cold of my wet clothes or from the shock. Probably both. The nurse sat down across from me. She was older than the paramedic, maybe my age. She had kind wrinkles around her eyes. Her badge read Karen Lewis. "I'm going to need you to tell me everything that happened," she said softly. And I told her every detail, from the moment I saw Laura's truck until I opened the backpack. Karen took notes on a tablet. She nodded. She didn't interrupt. When I finished, she sighed deeply. "The police will want to talk to you," she said. "This is attempted murder. Maybe worse. Attempted murder." The words floated in the air like black birds. My daughter-in-law, my son's wife, a killer. I couldn't process it. I couldn't understand it. Karen put her hand over mine. "You did the right thing. You saved a life today." But it didn't feel that way. It felt like I had discovered something terrible, something I couldn't put back in the dark, something that would change everything forever. 2 hours passed before a doctor came out to speak to me. He was young, perhaps 35, with deep circles under his eyes and hands that smelled of antibacterial soap. "The baby is stable," he said, "for now. He's in the neonatal intensive care unit. He suffered severe hypothermia and aspirated water. His lungs are compromised. The next 48 hours are critical." "Is he going to live?" I asked, my voice sounding broken. "I don't know," he said with brutal honesty. "We're going to do everything we can." The police arrived half an hour later. 2 officers, a woman in her 40s with her hair in a tight bun, and a younger man taking notes. The woman introduced herself as Detective Mia Carter. She had dark eyes that seemed to see right through lies. They asked me the same questions over and over from different angles. I described the truck, the exact time, Laura's movements, the backpack, everything. Mia looked at me with an intensity that made me feel guilty, even though I hadn't done anything wrong. "And you are certain that was your daughter-in-law?" "Completely certain." "Why would she do something like that?" "I don't know. Where is she now?" "I don't know." "When was the last time you spoke to her before today?" 3 weeks ago, on the anniversary of my son's death." Mia wrote something down. She exchanged a look with her partner. "We are going to need you to come to the precinct to make a formal statement tomorrow, and you cannot contact Laura under any circumstances. Do you understand?" I nodded. "What would I tell her anyway? Why did you try to kill a baby? Why did you throw him in the river like trash? Why? Why? Why?" The officers left. Karen came back with a blanket and a hot cup of tea. "You should go home, rest, change your clothes." But I couldn't leave. I couldn't leave that baby alone in the hospital. That baby I had held against my chest, who had drawn his last hopeful breath in my arms. I stayed in the waiting room. Karen brought me dry clothes from the hospital supply, nurse's scrubs, and an oversized t-shirt. I changed in the bathroom, looked at myself in the mirror. I looked like I had aged 10 years in one afternoon. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in that plastic chair, watching the clock. Every hour, I got up and asked about the baby. The nurses gave me the same answer: stable, critical, fighting. At 3 inches the morning, Pastor John Ellis appeared. The pastor from my church. Someone must have notified him. He sat next to me in silence. He didn't say anything for a long time. He was just there. Sometimes that is all you need. A presence, proof that you are not completely alone in hell. God puts trials in our path, he finally said. This doesn't feel like a trial, I replied. It feels like a curse. He nodded. He didn't try to convince me otherwise, and I appreciated that more than any sermon. As the sun began to rise, I knew that nothing would ever be the same. I had crossed a line. I had seen something I couldn't ignore, and whatever came next, I would have to face it, because that baby, that tiny being fighting for every breath in the next room, had become my responsibility. I hadn't chosen him, but I couldn't abandon him either, not after pulling him from the water, not after feeling his heart beat against mine. Dawn arrived without me noticing. Light streamed through the waiting room windows, painting everything pale orange. I had spent the entire night in that plastic chair. My back protested, my eyes burned, but I couldn't leave. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the backpack sinking. I saw that little body motionless. I saw the purple lips. Karen appeared at 7 inches the morning with coffee and a sandwich wrapped in aluminum foil. "Do you need to eat something?" she said, putting it in my hands. I wasn't hungry, but I ate anyway because she stood there waiting. The coffee was too hot and burned my tongue. The sandwich tasted like cardboard, but I swallowed. I chewed. I pretended to be a normal person doing normal things on a normal morning. "The baby is still stable," Karen said, sitting next to me. "His body temperature is rising. His lungs are responding to treatment. That's a good sign." "Can I see him?" She shook her head. "Not yet. Only immediate family, and we don't even know who his family is." Family. The word hit me like a stone. That baby had to have family. A mother. Laura. But she had tried to kill him. So who was the father? Where was he? Why had no one reported him missing? The questions piled up in my head with no answers. At 9, Detective Carter came back. This time, she was alone. She sat down across from me with a folder in her hands. Her expression was hard, inquisitive. She looked at me as if I were the suspect. "Margaret," she said, opening the folder. "I need to ask you a few more questions. I've already told you everything I know. I know, but some inconsistencies have arisen." Inconsistencies. The word floated between us like an accusation. I felt my stomach clench. "What kind of inconsistencies?" Mia took out a photograph and placed it on the small table between us. It was Laura's truck, but it was in a parking lot, not by the river. This photo was taken by a supermarket security camera 20 miles from here yesterday at 5:20 inches the afternoon. 5:20, 10 minutes after I saw her by the river. "Impossible," I said. I looked at the photo closer. It was her truck, license plate and all, but it couldn't be. There has to be a mistake. I saw her. She was there. I saw her throw the backpack. "Are you completely sure it was Laura? How close were you?" I swallowed. 100 yards, maybe more. I saw her from the back most of the time, the blue blouse, the dark hair, the black truck. "I was sure," I said, but my voice sounded less convincing now. Mia leaned forward. "Margaret, I need you to be honest with me. What is your relationship with Laura? Do you get along? And do you blame her for your son's death?" And there was the real question, the one I had been waiting for since the police appeared. Because we didn't get along. We never had. From the day Benjamin introduced her to me, I knew something was wrong with her. She was too perfect, too calculating, too interested in the money Benjamin earned as an engineer. "We aren't close," I admitted. "Blame her for your son's death?" "What?" My voice came out too high, too defensive. "It's a simple question. Do you blame Laura for Benjamin's death?" The accident, that's what everyone called it. Benjamin was driving home after a dinner with Laura. The car skidded, crashed into a tree. Benjamin died on impact. Laura walked away with minor scratches. It always seemed strange to me. It always seemed convenient. But I never had proof. Just a shattered mother looking for someone to blame. "I don't know what that has to do with the baby." "It has everything to do with it," Mia said, closing the folder. "Because we haven't been able to locate Laura. She's vanished. Her house is empty. Her phone is off. And you are the only person who claims to have seen her yesterday." Her words fell on me like ice water. She was accusing me, not directly, but the insinuation was clear as day. She thought I had made everything up, that I had found the baby some other way and was blaming Laura out of revenge. "I didn't lie," I said through gritted teeth. "I saw what I saw." "Then we need to find Laura, and fast, because if she is that baby's mother, she is in serious danger. And if she isn't, then we have an even bigger mystery on our hands." Mia stood up, handed me a card with her number. "If you remember anything else, any detail, call me." She left, leaving me with more questions than answers. I sat there with the card in my hand, wondering if I was losing my mind. I had seen Laura, I was sure, but now doubt seeped in like poison. What if I had been wrong? What if it had been someone else? What if my grief and my resentment had made me see what I wanted to see? Pastor John came back around noon. He was carrying a rosary. "Shall we pray?" he asked. I'm not very religious. I never was. But in that moment, I needed something bigger than myself, something to tell me I wasn't alone in this. I nodded. We prayed together quietly. The familiar words calmed me, even though I didn't understand how they worked. When we finished, I felt a little less broken. "The police think I'm lying," I told him. "The truth always comes to light," he replied, "even if it takes time." But we didn't have time. That baby was fighting for his life, and somewhere Laura was hidden, or escaping, or planning her next move. At 3 the afternoon, a different doctor came to see me. It was a woman this time, older, with thick glasses and a serious expression. "We need your consent to run some tests on the baby," she said. "I'm not family." "We know, but you are the only responsible person at the moment. Social services is on the way, but in the meantime, we need to act. The baby needs blood work. We need to know if he has any medical conditions, if he was exposed to drugs, if he has injuries we haven't detected." I signed the papers. I didn't even read them completely. I just wanted them to do whatever was necessary to save him. 2 hours later, Sarah Thompson, the social worker, appeared. She was young. Too young to have that job, I thought. Perhaps 25, short hair, gray suit, a professional smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Mrs. Davis," she said, sitting next to me, "I need to ask you some questions about your situation. I understand you found the baby." Again the story, again the questions. But Sarah was different. She didn't look at me with suspicion. She looked at me with pity, which was somehow worse. "Do you live alone?" she asked. "Yes." "Do you have a stable income?" "I have my late husband's pension and some savings." "Criminal record?" "No." "Mental health issues? Depression? Anxiety?" I hesitated. After Benjamin died, I took antidepressants for 3 months. My doctor said it was normal, that grief sometimes needed chemical help. I stopped when I started feeling better. "I had depression after my son's death," I admitted. "But it passed." Sarah wrote something down. I couldn't see what. "The baby is going to need a temporary home when he leaves the hospital," she said. "If he leaves. Child Protective Services will look for certified foster families. In the meantime, he will remain in state custody." State custody. Those words broke something inside me. That baby I had held against my chest, who had breathed his first desperate breath in my arms, was going to be handed over to strangers, to a system, to people who would see him as just another case, another number. And if I wanted to? The words came out before I could stop them. What if I wanted to take care of him? Sarah looked at me surprised, then skeptical. "Mrs. Davis, you are 62 years old. You are not certified as a foster family. You have no legal relationship with the baby, and you are involved in an active criminal investigation. I didn't do anything wrong. I saved his life. I know, but the system has protocols. The best interest of the child comes first, and frankly, your age and your recent emotional situation are factors we have to consider." I felt like I'd been slapped. Too old, too unstable, too damaged. Maybe she was right. Maybe it was crazy even to think about it. But when I closed my eyes, all I saw was that fragile little body, and I knew no one else in the world would love him the way I could. That night, I went home for the first time in 36 hours. Karen convinced me. She said I needed to shower, sleep in a real bed, that the baby would be fine, that they would call me if anything changed. I drove home as the sun set. The river shimmered on my right. I stopped at the same spot where I had seen Laura, where I had dragged the backpack out. I got out of the car, walked to the shore. The backpack was gone. The police had taken it as evidence, but I could see exactly where it had been. I could see my own footprints in the dry mud. I stood there as darkness fell, wondering if I would ever know the truth, wondering if Laura was watching from somewhere, wondering what the hell had really happened. And then, my phone rang. It was the hospital. My heart stopped. "Mrs. Davis," said Karen's voice, "you need to come back now." I drove back to the hospital, breaking every speed limit. My hands trembled on the steering wheel. My heart pounded so loudly I could hear it over the engine noise. Karen hadn't given details on the phone. She had just said to come back now. Those 2 words were enough to fill my head with the worst possible scenarios. The baby had died. It had to be that. Why else would they call me with such urgency? He had fought for 2 days, and finally his little body had given up. I hadn't been enough. I arrived too late. I parked poorly, leaving the car diagonally across 2 spaces. I ran toward the emergency doors. Karen was waiting for me at the entrance. Her expression was serious. But there was something else, something I couldn't decipher. "He's alive," she said immediately, as if she knew exactly what I was thinking. "The baby is alive, but you need to come with me." She led me down hallways I didn't know. We went up to the 3rd floor, past the neonatal intensive care unit. We kept walking. Finally, we reached a small conference room. Inside were Detective Carter, Sarah the social worker, and a man I didn't know. He was older, perhaps 60. He wore a dark suit and glasses. He had the face of a lawyer. "Please sit down," Mia said, gesturing to a chair. I sat down. My legs felt like jelly. Everyone looked at me with an intensity that made me want to run. "We received the results of the baby's DNA test," Mia said. Her words dropped like stones into still water. DNA. I didn't understand why they had done that. To look for what exactly? And I asked when the silence became unbearable. Mia exchanged a look with the man in the suit. He nodded. She opened a folder and pulled out several printed sheets. She placed them in front of me. "The baby is a boy. He was born approximately 3 days ago, according to medical tests." And, Mia paused, "He is your grandson." The world stopped. The words made no sense. I heard them, but my brain refused to process them. My grandson. Impossible. Benjamin had died 6 months ago. He hadn't left behind a child, a pregnancy, nothing. "That's impossible," I whispered. "The results are conclusive," said the man in the suit. "I am Dr. Robert Klein, a specialist in forensic genetics. We ran the tests twice to be sure. The baby shares approximately 25% of his DNA with you. He is definitely your biological grandson, Benjamin's son." Benjamin's son. My Benjamin. I felt like someone had hit my chest with a hammer. Benjamin had a son he never knew, a son someone had tried to drown in a river. But how? My voice sounded distant. "Benjamin died 6 months ago. Laura never said anything about a pregnancy." "Exactly," Mia said, leaning forward. "Laura was pregnant at the time of the accident, according to our calculations. She became pregnant approximately 1 month before Benjamin's death, which means she knew." The room was spinning. Laura knew she was pregnant when Benjamin died. Why didn't she say anything? Why did she hide the pregnancy for 9 months? Why did she give birth in secret and then try to kill her own child? "I don't understand," I said. Tears began to cloud my vision. Why would she do something like that? He's her son, Benjamin's son. "That's what we need to figure out," Mia said. "But there's more. Margaret, I need you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you now." I braced myself. I didn't know for what, but I knew what was coming would be worse. "We've been investigating your son's accident, and there are inconsistencies, big inconsistencies." "What kind of inconsistencies?" "Benjamin's car was examined after the accident. The official report said it was a skid due to rain, but we asked for it to be reviewed again. They found evidence of tampering with the brakes. Someone sabotaged it." The word dropped like a bomb. Sabotage. Murder. My son hadn't died in an accident. He had been murdered. "Laura," I said. It wasn't a question. She is our primary suspect, Mia admitted. But we need proof, and we need to find her. She has completely vanished. She hasn't used her phone. She hasn't touched her bank accounts. It's as if she evaporated. I got up from the chair. I needed to move. I needed air. I walked to the window. Outside, the city glowed with millions of lights. Normal life, normal people, while I was trapped in this nightmare. My son, I whispered against the glass. My baby. She killed him. No one answered. There was nothing to say. I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Sarah. There's something else you need to know, she said softly. About the baby. About his future. I turned around. Her eyes were kind but sad. Since the baby is your biological grandson, you have legal rights. You can apply for custody. But she raised a hand before I could speak. It will be a long process. There will be evaluations, home visits, psychological interviews, and in the meantime, the baby will remain in state care. No. The word came out like a roar. You are not going to take him away from me. He's all I have left of Benjamin. He's my grandson, my blood. I understand, Sarah said. Believe me, I do. But the system has protocols, and after everything that has happened, we need to ensure the baby is safe. He'll be safer with me than with any stranger. Perhaps, but that decision is not up to me. It's up to a judge and the welfare of the child. Dr. Klein spoke for the first time since his initial revelation. There's another factor we must consider. The baby suffered severe trauma, hypothermia, near drowning. The next few weeks will be critical for his development. He will need specialized care, therapy, constant medical follow-up. I'll do whatever it takes, I said. Whatever it takes. Mia stood up. Margaret, I need you to understand something. You are not a suspect. We believe your story. But you also can't simply keep the baby because he's your grandson. There is a legal process, and in the meantime, our priority is finding Laura. We need you to help us. How? Think. Did Laura ever mention any special place, any property, any friend or relative she might be hiding with? I closed my eyes. I thought about all the conversations I'd had with Laura during the 3 years she was married to Benjamin. They had been few, superficial. She never talked about her family. Whenever I asked, she changed the subject. It was as if her life had begun the day she met Benjamin. She has an aunt, I said suddenly, near the state line. Benjamin mentioned her once, said Laura grew up with her. Name? I don't know, Benjamin never said. It's a start, Mia said. We'll investigate. Everyone left, except Karen. She stayed with me in that cold, empty conference room. Do you want to see your grandson? She asked. I nodded, unable to speak. She led me through security doors to the neonatal intensive care unit. She had me scrub my hands, put on a sterile gown. Then she guided me to an incubator in the corner, and there he was. My grandson, Benjamin's son, so small, so fragile, connected to tubes and wires, but alive, breathing, fighting. He had Benjamin's dark hair, Benjamin's nose, Benjamin's long fingers. Can I touch him? I whispered. Yes, just be gentle. I put my hand through the opening of the incubator. I touched his little hand. It was so soft, so warm. His tiny fingers closed around my index finger, a reflex, but it felt like a promise. Hello, little one, I whispered. I'm your grandma, and I promise I'm going to protect you. No one is ever going to hurt you again. I swear it on your daddy's memory. Karen put her hand on my shoulder. He needs a name, she said softly, for the hospital records, until we find the mother or a judge decides. Benjamin had wanted to name his first son Noah, a strong, powerful name. He had told me once during a Christmas dinner, if I ever have a son, I'm going to name him Noah. Noah, I said. His name is Noah. I stayed there all night, sitting next to the incubator, holding his hand, singing him the songs I used to sing to Benjamin, promising him a future I didn't know if I could give him, but promising it anyway, because now I knew the truth. This baby wasn't a stranger I had found by chance. He was my blood, my family, everything I had left of my murdered son. And I wasn't going to let anyone take him away, not the system, not Laura, not anyone. The following days were a bureaucratic hell. I woke up every morning at 5. I showered, got dressed, and drove to the hospital. I spent the day next to Noah's incubator, and in the evenings, the visits came. Lawyers, social workers, police, all with folders, all with questions, all deciding if I was good enough to raise my own grandson. Sarah showed up on the third day with a list of requirements. She read it in a monotonous voice, as if reciting an appliance manual. You will need a clean criminal background check, a complete psychological evaluation, a medical exam, income verification, personal references from at least 3 non-family members, and to complete a 40-hour childcare training course. 40 hours. As if I hadn't raised a son myself, as if I didn't know how to change a diaper or mix formula. But I didn't say anything. I just nodded and took the paper she handed me. How long will all this take? I asked. If you're lucky, 6 weeks. If not, 3 months. 3 months. Noah would be in temporary homes for 3 months while I jumped through bureaucratic hoops to prove I deserved to raise him. And what happens to him in the meantime when he is discharged from the hospital? He will go to a certified temporary foster family. He will receive adequate care. You will be allowed to visit him twice a week under supervision. Twice a week under supervision, as if I were a threat, as if I hadn't been the one who saved him from drowning. That night, I called Pastor John. I needed references. I needed people to say I wasn't crazy, that I was capable, that I could do this. He came to my house the next day. He sat in my kitchen, drinking the same tea I used to make for Benjamin when he was a boy. Of course, I'll help you, he said. You're one of the strongest women I know. That child is lucky to have you. But I didn't feel strong. I felt old, tired, scared. I was 62. How was I going to chase a 2-year-old when I was 64? How was I going to help him with homework when I was 70? How was I going to be there for his high school graduation if I reached 80? I'm too old for this, I said aloud for the first time. Pastor John looked at me over his cup. Sarah was 90 when she gave birth to Isaac. Age is just a number when there is love involved. I wanted to believe him. I really did. On the 4th day, Karen taught me how to care for Noah, how to support his little head, how to change his tiny diapers, how to prepare the formula to the exact temperature. My hands trembled at first. I had forgotten how fragile newborns were, how dependent, how terrifyingly delicate. You're doing great, Karen would say every time I panicked. But it didn't feel great. It felt like walking on thin ice. One false move, and everything would break. On the 5th day, Detective Carter returned with news. We found Laura's aunt, she said. She lives in a small town, about 95 miles from the state border. We went to interview her, and she hasn't seen Laura in 2 years. She says they fought, that Laura owed her $5,000 she never paid back. Money. It always came back to money with Laura. Benjamin earned a good salary as an engineer, $100,000 a year. He had savings, a life insurance policy worth $200,000. Did she collect the insurance? I asked. Mia nodded. 4 months ago, $200,000 deposited into her account. 2 weeks later, she transferred everything to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. We are trying to track it, but it's complicated. $200,000, the value of my son's life, and she had hidden it in some tax haven while planning to kill his baby. Why? I asked, the question that tormented me every night. Why kill the baby? She could have given him up for adoption. She could have left him at a hospital. Why try to drown him? Mia was quiet for a long moment. There's a theory, she finally said. We've been investigating Benjamin's finances. We found something interesting. 2 weeks before he died, he changed his will. He left everything to his future children, not to Laura, to his children. The air left my lungs. Benjamin knew, somehow, he knew Laura was pregnant, and he changed his will to protect his child. She killed him for money, I whispered. We believe so. And then she found out the money would go to the baby if he was born alive, so she decided to eliminate him too. The pure malice of it left me speechless. She had killed my son, carried the pregnancy to term, given birth alone, and then tried to drown her own baby, all for money. Do you have enough to arrest her when we find her? Yes, but she's still missing. She's smart. She knows we're looking for her. Days turned into weeks. Noah grew stronger. The doctors removed the tubes one by one. He started breathing on his own, feeding on his own, crying with strong, healthy lungs. He was a medical miracle, according to the doctors. No baby who had gone through what he did should be doing so well, but I knew it was more than medicine. It was will. It was Benjamin's spirit, living in that little body, fighting, surviving, refusing to give up. I completed all the requirements. The background check came back clean. The medical exam showed I was healthy for my age. The psychological evaluation was harder. A young woman with glasses asked me questions for 3 hours. How did you handle your son's death? How do you feel towards Laura? Are you trying to replace Benjamin with this baby? That last question made me angry. I am not replacing anyone, I said. I am saving my grandson. It's different. She wrote something down. I didn't know if it was good or bad. The inspection of my home was humiliating. 2 women checked every corner. They opened closets. They checked the refrigerator. They measured the windows to see if they were secure. They counted the smoke detectors. They asked about my emergency fire escape plan. You'll need a certified crib, a changing table, safety rails on all stairs, cabinet locks, outlet covers. I spent $1,500 on baby gear. My pension barely covered my basic expenses. I had to use my savings, but I didn't care. Noah was worth it. The childcare course was the worst. 15 young mothers and me. They all looked at me as if I were the confused grandmother who had wandered into the wrong class. The instructor was 25 years old. She explained things I already knew with insulting slowness. Babies need to eat every 3 hours. Babies cry when they are hungry or wet. Never shake a baby. I nodded and took notes, even though I wanted to scream that I had raised a son to adulthood, that I knew exactly what I was doing. But I needed that certificate, so I swallowed my pride and pretended to learn. 6 weeks after finding Noah in the river, Sarah appeared at the hospital with a small smile. You completed all the requirements, she said. The judge will review your case next week. If all goes well, you could have temporary custody in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, after 42 days of bureaucratic hell, I could finally take my grandson home. But that same night, when everything seemed to be improving, my phone rang. It was Mia. Her voice sounded tense. Margaret, I need you to come to the precinct. We found something about Benjamin you need to see. I arrived at the police precinct with my stomach tied in knots. Mia was waiting for me at the entrance. Her face was more serious than usual. She guided me through narrow hallways to an interrogation room. On the table was a cardboard box. Inside, I recognized Benjamin's belongings. His wallet, his watch, his broken phone, the things they had returned to me after the accident. What is this? I asked. We finally managed to unlock his phone, Mia said. Our technician worked on it for weeks, and we found something. She pulled out a manila envelope, opened it, and spread several printed sheets on the table. They were screenshots of text messages between Benjamin and Laura, dated 2 weeks before his death. I read the first one from Benjamin to Laura. We need to talk. I saw the baby stuff. Laura's reply. I don't know what you're talking about, Benjamin. Benjamin, I found the pregnancy test in the bathroom again. Why didn't you tell me? A 3-hour silence, then Laura. I wasn't ready to tell you. I was scared. Benjamin. Scared of what? I'm your husband. We're going to be parents. This is wonderful. Another silence, then Laura. I don't want to have it. I felt like someone had hit me. I kept reading. My hands trembled. Benjamin. What do you mean you don't want to have it? Laura. I'm not ready. I don't want to be a mother. I want to travel, live, not be tied down by a baby. Benjamin. He's our son. It's not a mistake. Don't say that, please. We can make it work. I'll help you. My mom will help us. Laura. I don't want help. I want my life back. The messages became more intense. Benjamin pleading, Laura resisting, until I reached the final exchange the day before the accident. Benjamin. I spoke with a lawyer. If you decide not to have the baby, I'm filing for divorce. And if you have him and don't want to raise him, I will fight for full custody. I'm not going to let you hurt my son. Laura. You're going to regret this, Benjamin. Benjamin. Is that a threat? There was no reply. The next day, Benjamin was dead. I dropped the papers. Tears ran down my cheeks unchecked. She killed him, I said. She killed him because he was going to protect the baby. We believe so, Mia said. And there's more. We reviewed Laura's phone calls from that week. She made 3 calls to an independent mechanic, Victor Harris. We brought him in for questioning. And what did he say? Nothing at first. But when we showed him evidence of the bank transfers Laura made to him, $2,000 the day before the accident, he started talking. He admitted she paid him to sabotage Benjamin's car brakes. I felt nauseous. I had to sit down. Laura had planned everything. She had hired someone to kill my son and made it look like an accident. Why did Victor do something like that? Debt. He gambled. He owed $10,000 to dangerous people. Laura offered him $2,000 immediately and $3,000 more later. He accepted. He is now arrested as an accessory to murder. And Laura? We have an arrest warrant for first-degree murder and attempted murder, but we still haven't found her. She's like a ghost. I sat in that cold room processing everything. My son had died trying to protect his baby, and that baby was now in the hospital fighting for his life because his own mother had tried to kill him too. The cruelty of it all was unbearable. What happens now? I asked. We keep looking. We have her photo in every airport, at every border crossing, alerts at hospitals in case she tries to change her appearance. Someone is going to recognize her eventually. No one disappears forever. But I wasn't so sure. Laura had proven to be smarter and colder than I ever imagined. If she had planned Benjamin's murder with so much detail, she probably had an equally elaborate escape plan. I returned to the hospital that night. I sat next to Noah's incubator. I watched him sleep, so innocent, so oblivious to all the horror surrounding him. He had cost his father his life simply by existing. His mother had tried to kill him, and I was all he had between him and a system that would see him as just another file. Your daddy loved you, I whispered to him. He died protecting you, and I'm going to finish what he started. I promise you. Karen appeared with coffee. She sat next to me in silence for a while. I heard about the messages, she finally said. I'm so sorry. I didn't know Benjamin could be so strong, I said. He was always gentle, kind. But in those messages, he was a warrior willing to fight for his son. Love does that, Karen said. It turns you into someone stronger than you thought possible. She was right. I was feeling it myself. I had never considered myself particularly strong, but now I was fighting the system, fighting time, fighting a fugitive killer, all for this baby. The next few days were all about preparation. I converted Benjamin's room into a room for Noah. I removed the rock band posters, the soccer trophies, the college photos. I painted the walls a soft yellow. I installed the new crib, the changing table, the musical mobile that played lullabies. It was painful dismantling my son's sanctuary, but necessary. Benjamin was gone. Noah was alive, and he needed a space to grow. Pastor John came to bless the room. He sprinkled holy water in the corners. He prayed for Noah's protection, for my strength, for justice for Benjamin. God has a plan, he said, even if we don't always understand it. What kind of plan involves killing a good man and almost drowning a baby? I asked bitterly. The kind of plan that turns evil into redemption. Laura wanted to destroy this family, but look at it. Benjamin left a legacy. You found a new purpose. That baby survived against all odds. Evil didn't win. Love won. I wanted to believe him. Some days I could. Other days, I only saw darkness. The hearing with the judge was scheduled for a Tuesday. I dressed in my best suit, the one I wore to Benjamin's funeral. Sarah accompanied me. We entered a small courtroom. The judge was a woman in her 50s, gray hair pulled back, a severe but not cruel expression. She reviewed all my papers, the certificates, the references, the evaluations, the home inspection report. She read every page with painful attention. Finally, she looked up. Mrs. Davis, she said, I have reviewed your case carefully. It is very unusual, a 62-year-old woman requesting custody of a newborn, but it is also unusual for a grandmother to save her grandson from drowning. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure everyone could hear it. I have spoken with the hospital, with the social workers, with your references, and they all say the same thing, that you are dedicated, loving, capable, and that baby was lucky you were there that day. I felt tears forming, but I held them back. I have also read about the criminal case, the suspicion that the baby's mother murdered his father and then tried to kill the baby. It is horrific, unthinkable. That child needs stability. He needs love. He needs someone to protect him. A long, endless pause. Therefore, I grant temporary custody to Margaret Davis for a period of 6 months. During that time, there will be monthly visits from social services, progress evaluations, and at the end of the 6 months, we will review whether custody becomes permanent. Congratulations, Grandma. The gavel struck, and suddenly I could breathe again. I cried right there in the courtroom. I cried from relief, from gratitude, from fear, from everything. Sarah hugged me. "You did it," she whispered. "You get to take him home." 3 days later, 6 weeks after pulling him from the river, I took Noah home. Karen helped me install him in the car seat. She explained everything again. How to hold him, how to feed him, how to spot signs of trouble. "He's going to be fine," she said, "and I'm just a call away if you need me." I drove home at 20 miles per hour. Every bump terrified me. Every approaching car seemed like a threat. But we arrived safe and sound. I walked into the house with Noah in my arms. I carried him to his room. I laid him in his crib. He looked so small in that space, so vulnerable. But he was breathing. He was alive. He was safe. For now. The first few weeks with Noah at home were the hardest of my life. I had forgotten how exhausting it is to care for a newborn. The sleepless nights, the inexplicable cries, the constant panic of doing something wrong. At 30, I had raised Benjamin with youthful energy. At 62, every sleepless night left me shattered. But there were also moments of pure magic. When Noah grabbed my finger with his little hand, when he stopped crying upon hearing my voice, when he opened those dark eyes that were identical to Benjamin's and looked at me as if I were his whole world. In those moments, I knew every second of exhaustion was worth it. Karen came 3 times a week. She taught me tricks I had forgotten. How to get him to burp easier, how to swaddle him tightly so he would sleep better, how to read his different cries. She became more than a nurse. She became a friend, a lifeline. "You're doing an amazing job," she would tell me every time. But I didn't feel amazing. I felt terrified. Every strange noise at night made me jump. Every car that passed slowly in front of my house made me nervous. Laura was still free somewhere, and although the police said she had probably fled the country, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was close. Watching, waiting, I installed new locks on all the doors, security cameras on the porch, and an alarm connected directly to the police. I spent another $800 I didn't have, but Noah's safety was priceless. One night, 3 weeks after bringing him home, I found something. I was organizing Benjamin's belongings that I had stored in boxes. His clothes, his books, his papers. At the bottom of a box, I found a worn green canvas journal. I didn't know Benjamin kept a diary. I opened it with trembling hands. The first pages were from years ago, thoughts about his job, his friends, nothing important. But then I reached the entries from the last year, the year he met Laura. "I met someone today. Read an entry from 4 years ago. Her name is Laura. She's beautiful, smart, mysterious. There's something about her I can't quite figure out. She intrigues me." I kept reading. The entries about Laura became more frequent. Benjamin was in love, completely captivated, but there were also doubts. "Sometimes I feel like I don't really know her. She never talks about her family. When I ask, she changes the subject. It's as if her life began the day we met." Another entry. I found Laura looking through my bank statements. She said she was just curious, but something felt wrong. Why would she check that without asking first? And then, the one that chilled me to the bone, dated 1 month before his death. Laura is pregnant. I found the test, but when I confronted her, she was furious. She said she doesn't want to have it, that it will ruin her life. How can she say that? It's our son. I changed my will today. Everything will go to the baby. I don't trust Laura with money. Not after seeing how she spends $400 on shoes, $1,000 on bags. She always wants more. But a baby is not an accessory. It's a life, and I'm going to protect it no matter what. The last entry was from the day of his death. Laura threatened me today. She said I would regret pressuring her about the baby. I don't know what she means, but it scares me. I'm going to talk to Mom tomorrow, tell her everything. Maybe she can help me figure out what to do. I just know I can't let Laura hurt our son. I will always protect him. He never got the chance to talk to me. He died that night, and I never knew he needed help, that he was scared, that he had seen the danger coming but not fast enough. I'm sorry, I whispered to the journal. I am so sorry, my love. I should have noticed. I should have seen that something was wrong. But I couldn't change the past. I could only protect the future. I took the journal to Mia the next day. She read the whole thing. Her jaw tightened with every page. This is crucial evidence, she said. It proves premeditation. It proves motive. When we find Laura, this will sink her. When will you find her? I asked. It's been almost 2 months. Mia sighed. We're doing everything we can, but she's smart. She probably used fake documents to leave the country. She could be anywhere. But 3 days later, everything changed. I was feeding Noah when my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Normally I wouldn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello, I said. Silence, breathing. Then a voice I recognized immediately. Margaret. Laura. My blood ran cold. I almost dropped Noah. I looked around the room as if she might be hiding in the shadows. Where are you? I managed to say. It doesn't matter where I am. What matters is that I have something you want, and you have something I want. You have nothing I want. I have the truth, she said, about what really happened with Benjamin, about why I did what I did. I bet you want to know. I already know the truth. I read Benjamin's diary. I know you killed him for money. I know you're a monster. A cold, humorless laugh. A monster? How dramatic. You don't know anything, Margaret. Benjamin wasn't the saint you think he was. Don't you dare, I roared. Don't you dare speak ill of my son. Okay, you're going to call the police? Go ahead. By the time I hang up this call, I'll be gone. I use disposable phones. I'm not stupid. My mind raced. I had to keep her talking. I had to record this somehow. I put the phone on speaker. I grabbed my cell phone with my free hand. I started recording. What do you want, Laura? I want my son. Your son? You tried to drown him. It was a mistake, a moment of madness. I was scared, confused. I had just given birth alone. I didn't know what I was doing. But I'm better now. I want my baby back. Over my dead body. That can be arranged, she said with chilling calmness. Listen to me closely. I want Noah, and I want the money from Benjamin's will. The $200,000 from the insurance plus everything Benjamin left in the trust for the baby. That's another $300,000, $500,000 total. All that Benjamin had worked for, all that he had saved, all destined for his son. And if I refuse, then I'll come for him. I am his biological mother. Legally, I have more rights than you. And when they finally catch me, I'm going to say that you stole my baby, that you threatened me, that you made up the whole story about the river to keep him. My word against yours, and I'm much younger, more credible, more sympathetic. I felt nauseous, but I kept recording. How do I know you won't kill us both and keep everything anyway? You don't, but it's your only option. Bring the baby and the money to the old dock by the river. You know, the one where Benjamin and you used to fish. Tomorrow at midnight, alone. If I see cops, I disappear, and you never see me again. And eventually, I'll find a way to take Noah from you anyway. Laura, wait. But the line was dead. I stood there, trembling with Noah in one arm and the phone in the other. I had the recording. I had evidence that Laura was alive, that she had threatened me. I called Mia immediately. I sent her the audio. Perfect, she said. This is exactly what we needed. Now we're going to set a trap. You're going to that meeting, but we'll be there, hidden, waiting. And when she shows up, we'll nab her. What if something goes wrong? What if she sees police and runs again? She won't see us. I promise. I'll have snipers in position, teams in the shadows. She's not getting away this time. And Noah? Noah stays with Karen in a secure location. You won't take him. You'll just pretend to bring him. I nodded even though she couldn't see me. One more day. I just had to survive one more day. And then Laura would finally face justice for Benjamin, for Noah, for all the pain she had caused. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed awake watching Noah sleep, memorizing every detail of his face just in case, in case something went wrong, in case I never saw him again. Your daddy loved you, I whispered to him, and I love you. And tomorrow, we're going to make sure you are safe forever. The next day passed in slow motion. Every minute felt like an hour, every hour like an eternity. At 9 inches the morning, Karen came for Noah. I packed him up as if he were going to be gone for a week, even though I hoped to have him back in hours. Diapers, formula, extra clothes, his favorite blanket. My hands shook as I put everything in the bag. He's going to be perfectly fine with me, Karen said, taking Noah in her arms. I have your number. The police have my address. No one is going to touch him, I promise. I kissed her on the forehead, then I kissed Noah. His soft skin smelled like baby powder and hope. I love you, little one, I whispered. Grandma will be back soon. I watched Karen's car disappear down the street, and it felt like a part of my soul was being torn away. But it was necessary. Noah had to be far away, safe, just in case things went wrong. Mia arrived at 2 inches the afternoon with 3 other officers, 2 men and a woman, all in civilian clothes, all armed. They turned my living room into an operations center. Laptops, radios, maps of the area around the dock. Let's review the plan again, Mia said, unfolding a map on my dining room table. The dock is here, abandoned for 5 years. It has 3 entrances, main, side, and rear. We'll have teams covering all 3. You enter through the main entrance at midnight exactly. She pointed to spots on the map with a red marker. Snipers here and here on the roofs of the adjacent buildings. They will have a clear view of the interior through the broken windows. Assault teams here in the rear, ready to enter the moment we have visual confirmation of Laura. And what exactly do I do? I asked. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. You go in, you talk to her, you keep her talking. We need her to confess, to admit that she killed Benjamin, that she tried to kill Noah. You will be wearing a hidden microphone. We'll record everything. One of the officers, a tall man in his 30 seconds, pulled out a small button-sized device. This goes taped to your clothes right here. He pointed just below my neck. It transmits everything in real time. It also has a panic button. If you press this 3 times quickly, we go in immediately, no matter what. He showed me how it worked. I practiced pressing it. 3 quick taps. My life would depend on remembering that. What if she asks me to show her the baby? Tell her he's in the car. Tell her you want to talk first, that you want to understand why she did what she did. Appeal to her ego. People like Laura love talking about themselves. Let her brag about how smart she was. We spent the next few hours going over every detail, every possible scenario. What to do if Laura was armed, what to do if she wasn't alone, what to do if something went wrong. My head was spinning with information. At 8 inches the evening, they made me eat a ham sandwich that tasted like cardboard, but I swallowed every bite. I needed energy. I needed to be alert. At 10, they put the microphone on me. They tested the audio over and over, making me say phrases, count to 10, scream, whisper, making sure everything worked perfectly. Remember, Mia said, looking me straight in the eyes. You are not alone in there. I will be listening to every word. The team will be yards away. At the slightest sign of real danger, we go in. I won't let anything happen to you. I nodded. I wanted to believe her, but fear was a cold snake coiled in my stomach. At 11:15, we moved. I drove my own car. Mia was in the passenger seat, crouched down so she couldn't be seen from outside. The other teams were already in position as she informed me over the radio. Snipers in position, rear team ready, perimeter secured. We reached the dock at 11:40. It was exactly as I remembered it. Old, dilapidated, broken windows, graffiti-covered walls. Benjamin and I used to come here when he was a boy. We used to fish off the pier behind it. Simpler times, happier times. Mia got out of the car in a blind spot from Laura's imaginary cameras. She disappeared into the shadows. I was alone. I looked at the clock. 11:55. 5 minutes. I closed my eyes. I thought of Benjamin, his smile, the way he called me Mom in that loving tone, what it would have been like to see him as a father. I thought of Noah, his future, all the things he deserved to have, a life without fear, without threats, without shadows. Midnight. My phone vibrated. A text message from an unknown number. Come in alone now. I got out of the car. The night air was cold. I could see my breath. I walked toward the dock's main door. Every step sounded too loud in the silence. The door was ajar. I pushed it. It squeaked. The sound echoed off the empty walls. Inside was dark, almost completely black. Only a little moonlight entered through the broken windows, creating strange shadows. "Laura," I called out. My voice sounded small, scared. "Close the door," a voice said from the shadows, Laura's voice. I closed the door. My eyes slowly adjusted to the darkness, and then I saw her standing in the center of the dock. She was wearing dark clothes, black jeans, a hooded sweatshirt. She looked different, thinner, her hair cut short, dyed blonde. But it was her. "You came," she said. She sounded almost surprised. "You said you wanted to talk." "I wanted my son and the money. Where are they?" "I want answers first. I want to know why. Why did you kill Benjamin? Why did you try to kill Noah?" She laughed, that same cold sound I had heard on the phone. "Why do you think, Margaret?" "For money. It was always for money. Benjamin loved you. He gave you everything." Benjamin was a romantic idiot. He talked about love and family and the future. I wanted freedom. I wanted to travel, live, not be tied down to a house and a crying baby. "Then why did you marry him?" "Because he was an engineer. He earned well. He had savings. He had life insurance. It was an investment. I was going to wait 5 years, divorce him, take half of everything. But then I got pregnant, and it ruined my plan." Her words were venom. "Everyone burned me. You told him you didn't want the baby." "Of course I didn't want him. But Benjamin became impossible. He changed his will, everything to the baby, so I had to adapt. If Benjamin died while I was pregnant, I'd collect the insurance, but the baby would inherit the rest. So the solution was simple. Kill Benjamin, have the baby, kill him too, keep everything." She was confessing everything, every word recorded, transmitted. The police were listening, but I needed more. "You hired Victor to sabotage the brakes. $2,000. Cheap, considering they gave me $200,000 from the insurance. Best investment of my life. And the baby? Your own son? He was just an obstacle, nothing more. I gave birth alone in a cabin I rented with cash. No one knew I was pregnant. I wore baggy clothes. I avoided people. When he was born, I thought about simply leaving him somewhere. But then I remembered the river where you and Benjamin went. It seemed poetic to end everything where his little family tradition began. I felt nauseous. I felt rage. I felt all the hatred in the world concentrated on this woman standing in front of me. But you failed. I saved him. Yes, that was annoying. But it doesn't matter, because now I'm going to finish the job. Where is Noah, Margaret? I'm not giving him to you. It wasn't a question. And then I saw the gun. She pulled it from her sweatshirt, small, black, pointing directly at my chest. "Last chance. Where is my son?" I pressed the panic button once, twice, 3 times. "You're never going to touch him," I said. Her finger moved toward the trigger. Everything seemed to move in slow motion. I saw the flash. I heard the shot. I felt something hit my shoulder, hot, burning. I fell backward, and then the dock exploded into movement. Doors burst open, blinding lights, voices screaming, "Police! Drop the weapon now!" I saw Laura turn. She saw the guns pointing at her. She saw that she was surrounded. She saw that she had lost. And for a second, I thought she was going to shoot again. I thought she was going to force them to kill her. But she lowered the weapon slowly. She let it drop to the floor. She raised her hands. 3 officers tackled her, pinned her face down, put her in handcuffs. She was shouting curses, threats, but it didn't matter. She was arrested. She was finished. Mia ran toward me, knelt down by my side. "Margaret, stay with me. I'm fine," I managed to say, even though the pain in my shoulder was unbearable. "You caught her. Tell me you caught her." "We have her. She's done for now. Hold still. The ambulance is on its way." I closed my eyes. It was enough. It was finally over. I woke up in the hospital again, but this time it was different. This time what I felt wasn't despair but relief, peace. My shoulder hurt where the bullet had torn through muscle, but no bone. Luck, the doctor said. 2 inches to the left, and it would have been your heart. Karen was sitting next to my bed, holding Noah. When I opened my eyes, she smiled. Look who woke up, she said, coming closer. Someone missed you a lot. I took Noah with my good arm. I cradled him against my chest. He smelled like baby powder and innocence. He started making little noises, those small sounds babies make when they are content. Hello, my love, I whispered. Grandma is fine. Everything is fine now. Mia appeared an hour later. She carried flowers and a tired smile. How are you feeling? Like I've been shot, I said, but alive. What happened to Laura? Arrested. Charges of first-degree murder for Benjamin, attempted murder for Noah, attempted murder against you, plus a list of other crimes, conspiracy, fraud, obstruction of justice. She's going to spend the rest of her life in prison without the possibility of parole. The words were sweet as honey. Justice. The recording worked perfectly. She confessed everything. Her lawyer tried to argue she was coerced, that you forced her to say those things. But the jury saw the complete video. They saw her pull the gun, shoot you. They had no mercy. 30 minutes of deliberation. Guilty on all counts. When was the trial? I looked out the window, confused. How long was I out? 3 days. The bullet did more damage than they initially thought. They had to operate on you twice, but you'll recover completely according to the doctors. 3 days. I had missed 3 days. I looked at Noah, alarmed. Karen took care of him, Mia said quickly, and Pastor John helped her. That baby was spoiled by half the city while you rested. Over the next few weeks, I recovered slowly. The physical therapy for my shoulder was painful, but necessary. Karen kept coming to help with Noah when I couldn't lift him with my injured arm. Pastor John brought food. Neighbors I barely knew showed up with casseroles and kind words. You're a hero, the lady from the end of the street said. What you did for that baby, risking your life like that. But I didn't feel like a hero. I just felt like a grandmother doing what any grandmother would do, protecting her own. 2 months after Laura's capture, I had another hearing with the judge. This time was different. This time the judge was smiling as she reviewed the documents. Mrs. Davis, she said, I have reviewed all the reports from the last 6 months, the social services visits, Noah's medical evaluations, the progress reports, and I must say I am impressed. My heart pounded fast. Noah is thriving under your care. He is meeting all his developmental milestones. He is healthy, happy, loved. And you have proven to be more than capable despite the challenges. Thank you, Your Honor. Therefore, I grant permanent and full custody of Noah Davis effective immediately. Furthermore, given that the biological mother is incarcerated for life and has lost all parental rights, I authorize adoption proceedings if you wish to proceed. Adoption, making him legally mine, not just his custodial grandmother, but his legal mother. Yes, I said without hesitation. Yes, I want to adopt him. Then so be it. Congratulations officially. The gavel fell, and suddenly all the weight I had carried for months lifted. It was official. Noah was mine. No one could ever take him away. I walked out of the courthouse with Noah in my arms. He was now 8 months old, plump and happy. He smiled, showing 2 little teeth. He laughed when I bounced him. He pulled my hair with his chubby little hands. Karen was waiting outside with Pastor John. They hugged me. The 3 of us cried with happiness right there on the courthouse steps. You did it, Karen said, against all odds. You did it. That night, I made a special dinner. Well, as special as it could be with a baby who needed constant attention. I invited Karen and Pastor John. We ate roasted chicken and rice. We toasted with apple juice because none of us drank alcohol. To Noah, Pastor John said, raising his glass to his bright future. To Benjamin, I said, who is watching us from somewhere, proud of his son. To love, Karen added, which always triumphs over evil. We drank, we ate, we laughed. Noah banged on his high chair and shouted with joy, not understanding but sensing the happiness around him. Months turned into years. Noah grew. He started walking at 11 months. His first word was, Amma, short for grandma. I cried when he said it. At 2 years old, he was running all over the house. At 3, he started preschool. Every milestone was a miracle. Every day a gift. I talked to him about Benjamin constantly. I showed him photos. I told him stories. Your daddy was good. I would tell him, brave. He loved you even before he met you. He gave his life protecting you. Daddy hero, Noah would say in his little voice. Yes, my love. Daddy was a hero, and you are going to grow up to be just as good, just as brave, just as loving. I never told him about Laura. That would come later, when he was older, when he could understand. For now, he just needed to know he was loved, that he was wanted, that there were people who had fought for him. On Noah's 5th birthday, we held a party in the yard. We invited all the neighborhood kids. There were balloons, cake, presents. Noah ran among his friends laughing, so full of life, so different from the blue, still baby I had pulled from the river 5 years ago. Karen sat next to me on the porch watching the celebration. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "About that day," I admitted. "About how I could have been 5 minutes late, how I might not have looked out the window at the exact moment, how everything could have been different. But it wasn't. You found him. You saved him. It was your destiny or Benjamin's," I said. "Sometimes I think he guided my eyes to the river that day, that somehow he knew I would be there, that he could trust me to protect his son." "Maybe," Karen said. "Or maybe you're just an incredibly brave woman who refused to give up." That night, after everyone left, after Noah fell asleep exhausted from so much excitement, I sat alone in the living room. I looked at the photos on the wall. Benjamin as a baby, Benjamin graduating, Benjamin on his wedding day, and next to them new photos. Newborn Noah in the hospital, Noah taking his first steps, Noah on his first day of school, 2 generations connected by love, separated by tragedy, united by survival. "We did it, Benjamin," I whispered to his photo. "Your son is safe. He is happy. He is growing up strong and good, just as you wanted." And although I knew he couldn't answer me, I felt something, a warmth, a peace, as if he were there, proud, grateful, at rest. Maybe you would have given up if you had been in my place. Maybe you would have thought you were too old, too tired, too broken. Or maybe you would have done exactly the same thing. Because that's what love does. It makes you stronger than you thought possible. It makes you fight when all seems lost. It makes you find hope in the deepest darkness. I don't know what the future holds. I know there will be challenges. I know there will be hard days. I know raising a child at my age won't be easy. But I also know that every day with Noah is a gift. Every smile, every hug, every "I love you, Grandma." And to you, Noah, if you ever read this when you are older, I want you to know that you were loved before you were born, that your father died protecting you, that I would have done anything to save you, and that every second of these years with you has been worth every sacrifice. You are my reason, my purpose, my second chance at being a mother, and I wouldn't change a thing.